Well, I think it is just about time for us to start, so I'm going to get things moving. Thank you all for joining us for our October meeting for IFMA San Diego. We have a great subject today. It's on-site remote workplace resources for resilience. And I dare you all to say that 3 times fast, but you're going to enjoy today's presentation. We have a few announcements today. So if Brenda, if you will man the slides, we want to thank our sponsor event, ABLE and ABM. We'll be talking to them later. The next slide, please, Brennan. We also want to remind you that we have IG Live every Tuesday, but we're changing the time from 5 to 6 for a lot of those who want to join us and talk to us about the events that's going on. We make announcements, talk about what International's doing, and give all kinds of information and interview a lot of people that are very interesting. So watch us and join us, and you could talk to us live. Next slide, Brennan. And now we have the educational sessions for SFP, the Sustainable Facility Professional. And the course dates we have are November 17th through 19th and December 1st through 3rd. If that's something you're interested in, please put in the chat to Karen that you'd like something like that. If you cannot sign up for these, maybe the next one. Oh, look at that. I got my CFM. Yay. Congratulations. The next one, in 2 weeks, we will have IFMA World Workplace. There's a lot of people, there's about 10 of us going, and that you're able to look at it virtually as well. If you're interested in that, please put that in the chat and we'll get you more information. Now, to save the dates, Biocom has a joint reception October 21st for those interested in going. We also have a holiday wreath event in November. Now we have TBA to be announced because, as you know, the supplies around the world are sitting in harbors waiting to be unloaded. So we have to wait until those supplies come in, but it will be before the holidays in November. So if you're signed up for that, thank you for your patience. If you're not, join it. It's a live event, and they're securing the location since it had to change a little bit, but it's a fun event to be live and to go home with actually a gift for someone or in your own home. It smells so great. The facility roundtable that we have coming up at the end of November that we're working on, it is, and I'm going to read this from one of our people in Swinnerton. They have a facility condition assessment and how to do those things. I think that'll be a great roundtable for many people. So look for that announcement too in your emails, on IG Live, in the newsletter that comes out. And if you're not signed up for the newsletter, put it in the comments that you want to sign up. Next, Brennan. Okay, so here's what we've been teasing about. December in San Diego, always so sunny and warm. So we're going to have our holiday social December 8th at the Valley High Hotel. It's going to be a little different, so keep your eyes open for announcements about that. Watch your inbox because we're going to have a fun in-person event with this. So I think with the announcements, I think that's everything we had announcement wise. Oh, and yes, you can watch all of our past events on YouTube. I want to throw it over to Lydia real quick so that she can make an announcement about membership and say hello to her prospects.
All right, I want to welcome any of you that are prospects and interested in IFMA San Diego's chapter. It's a wonderful chapter, and we're creating new and exciting opportunities in person, and we've got a great year planned for 2022. And if you can, please reach out to me. I'm here to answer any questions about the chapter, about certifications and getting involved. So just reach out to me and I'll be there to answer any of your questions. And welcome.
Thank you, Lydia. We're going to throw it over to Brian Shute now. He's our chair of our sponsorship committee, and we want to welcome and thank our latest sponsor for today, which is ABLE and ABM. I think I got it right. There's a lot of acronyms there. So anyway, Brian, take it away.
Right. Thank you, Sherry. Yes. So we have with us today is Andrew Jackson from ABLE, which is now part of ABM. So he's going to share a little bit about their company and has a short video. So why don't you go ahead and just take a moment to introduce yourself, Andrew, and then we'll launch the video.
Well, thank you very much for the introduction, Brian, and I appreciate you guys having us on. We're always happy to help. So ABLE now is working as an ABM company, and it will slowly transition fully into ABM. We do janitorial, building maintenance, engineering, and a whole lot of array of different services that ABM also will provide. So the video will kind of show a little bit of the history of both companies and how the integration will happen together.
We are dreams fulfilled for two San Francisco window washers. Self-made visionaries with a deep commitment to their people, clients, and communities. A commitment that sparked growth, quality, and success for more than a century. Two traveling similar paths, now together. Strategically aligned with shared values. With industry-leading scale. With long-standing clients in diverse industries. With passion for our communities. ABM and ABLE.
Great. Thank you, Andrew. And I would just add that ABLE's been a long-time gold sponsor with IFMA San Diego. So we appreciate your sponsorship and look forward to your involvement in the new year.
Thank you, Andrew. You have a very famous name. I wonder why. Anyway, thank you for joining us. Thank you for sponsoring our event. Speaking of events, what a great segue. Speaking of events, I'd like to throw it over to Glinda. She has something to announce. Glinda?
Hey, everybody. Thank you all for attending this virtual event. We promise we will not have any more of these if we can help it. I just wanted to give a little plug on the holiday event that Sherry had mentioned earlier that's going to be taking place at Bali High. And we are doing this because it's a fundraising event for San Diego Youth Services. We've been partnering with them for many, many years, longer than I've been with IFMA actually, which is almost 5 years now. So we want to continue that partnership and supporting them because they provide so many services for our youth in San Diego who are at the most at risk. So these would be homeless youth who have maybe mental issues and whatnot. So we want to continue helping them, helping the children that we have in San Diego. So it's hyper local. We want to be able to help them out as much as possible. If you are already thinking about donations to events or silent auctions, raffles, whatnot for the upcoming holidays, please consider doing so with IFMA San Diego for SDYS. I will put my email in the chat and you can contact me directly and let me know if you'd like to participate in that. Thanks so much, Sherry. You're on mute.
People like me on mute for some reason. Okay, thank you, Glinda. So now we have a great topic to discuss in our speaker, but wait, before I do that, I got to say one more time, and I can't do it 3 times fast, the topic, just the topic name, okay? It's on-site and remote resources for workplace resilience. Okay, can anyone say that 3 times fast? No? Okay. So we're going to talk to Kristen Reddick, and we thank her for being here. But before we even get to talk to her, I'm going to throw it over to Sue Ann. Well, at least her name, because I don't see a picture of her. I'm going to throw it over to Sue Ann's name so she can introduce Kristen. Okay. Thank you very much, Suzanne.
Thanks.
Sue Ann.
I'm with Glenda. I'm ready to see everybody in person and no more virtual technology issues. So we're going to hopefully have this as our last virtual, but Kristen is in Holland, Michigan. She's one of our Hayworth Workplace Research Design consultants who's very passionate about facts and data and research. And one of the things she's going to talk about today as we all figure out returning to the office is the importance of resilience and the resources that are available. So again, I can't wait to see you in person, and I'm going to turn it over to Kristen. Thanks, Kristen. We'll have to get you out to San Diego next time.
I was going to say that holiday party sounds lovely, because I can guarantee you on December 8th in Holland, Michigan, it's probably not going to break 50 degrees. So yes, that would be lovely. Thank you all for having me. Like Sue Ann said, my name is Kristen Reddick. I'm a member of the research team at Hayworth, and we've got some exciting new research that I'm looking forward to sharing with you. We've kind of shortened our title on our slide deck, Workforce Resilience Post-Pandemic. So that's a little bit more palatable, but really it's about those key resources to help combat stress and foster improved performance. So what do we mean when we say resilience? Well, resilience is really that ability to bounce back from adverse conditions, and how we perceive our resources impacts how we respond to such conditions. So there's this idea of human capital. Workers invest their own resources, their time, their talent. This is what your organization pays you to bring to the table. And then in return, they expect you, to perform and meet your job duties. But also, employers are expected to provide additional resources to meet the work needs and responsibilities of their employees. So a little bit of background here. Our research team started out on this agenda to learn more about stress and the impact, what happens when people bring their stress into the workplace. We also had an interest in looking at the population that was neurodiverse. So those who have ADHD, autism, PTSD, anxiety. So we had this big research agenda plan. We were going to do some field projects with some customers, because we really love to do that, just get out there and learn with our customers. And then COVID happened. So like most of us in the world, we had to pivot, and we had to find out a way that we could keep our research going, but look at it from a slightly different lens. So we actually used the fact that people were sent home quite quickly to our advantage, because what we wanted to ask was how people perceived their workplace resources, whether they were working in a fully remote situation, a hybrid situation, or a fully on-site situation. So we decided the best way to do that, since everybody was dispersed and at home, was to go ahead and send out a survey. But in order to get some good quality data, we had to have a good framework around it. So we created our resilience research model, and the gist of it is that resources matter. Now, this is all based on a theory that's been around for several decades. It's called the conservation of resources theory. And really, this is how we perceive our resources around us impacts how we respond to such conditions. So the resource salience, whether it's a more permanent or fluid resource, and also the importance of the resource, can increase as chronic stress increase. So we've looked at this in the framework of not only the workplace and the built environment, but also what are those other things that could be happening to people that could impact the stress that they're bringing into work and experiencing while they're at work. So a couple of those things are situational stressors. These are those life moments that might be fleeting. They could be a bad stress. Maybe somebody cuts you off in traffic. They could be a good stress. You've got to meet a deadline and you need that extra boost of adrenaline to get you through your last 2 hours of the day. So we took into account those situational stressors, but also some other personal factors, like what happens when people are experiencing chronic stress. Chronic stress is when those situational stressors start to just become more and more. They build up and people just finally get overloaded. And they start experiencing those stress symptoms very frequently. We're talking 3 to 5 days a week. If you're experiencing stress 7 days a week, you're definitely at that chronic stress level. We also looked at this sensory processing sensitivity. Now, why we did this is because, like I said earlier, we wanted to learn more about the population that was neurodiverse. But that's not often something that people self-report on. If you're hired into a company, you don't go to HR usually and raise your hand and say, hey, I've got PTSD, can you accommodate me? So asking people about their sensory processing sensitivity is a way to get close to understanding how those who have neurodiverse conditions respond, and feel when they're in the workplace as well. And I'll go into a little bit more on why that matters in a bit. We also asked about general work factors. So your job demands, are your job demands a hindrance to you, or are they a good challenge that you feel like you can meet the expectations and really perform at the top level? Or are you being asked to meet unreasonable deadlines? Do you not have enough people on your team to support you? Those type of job demands can also factor into the outcome of stress. From that physical environment point of view, we looked at workplace resources everywhere from user control elements to legibility. And then we also asked questions surrounding the policies of the company. So, is your work from home policy clear? Do people know what's expected of them? Do they have the autonomy to do their job? And then the last one being that workplace culture. Now, workplace culture is one of those key elements of an organization. It's really the personality of the organization. It's their values, it's their artifacts, it's how the people that work for them perceive them and those outside of the organization. So how is that culture experienced? Not only from the organizational level, but also from your team level as well. So we put all this together as our research model, and we wanted to measure those outcomes. So how does this impact our stress and thus our work performance? So a little bit into these workplace resources that I'm talking about as far as the built environment. Well, when we say user control, we ask questions about high adjustable tables, task seating, your lighting, your task lighting, even your orientation. So are you sitting in a direction that actually allows you to focus, or are you constantly getting distracted? This is another one of those that could be a trigger for those with PTSD. They might not want to be snuck up on from behind, right? So that could cause them a lot of stress and anxiety. So even orienting people the correct direction can matter. And then another element we asked about was screening. So does this give you the ability to control the level of privacy that you have, whether it's visual or acoustical? And does it provide you with an opportunity to externalize your ideas? You can put your Post-it notes, you can put your family pictures, and have more of those personalization elements. We also consider a resource to be your proximity to your coworkers. How easy is it for you to interact with people around you? Can you see your coworkers? Very easily find them and be able to get together and do the job that you need to get done. The next resource category is tools and technology. This can be both task specific and collaborative technology. So when you think back to, what is it, like 20 months ago now, collaboration technology became such a key resource. All of a sudden, we are all over the country, or even just in our community, but still expected to keep that real-time collaboration going. So the collaborative tech became so key. And I don't know about the experience that you all had, but I know at Hayworth, we had just started to dip our toes in the water using Microsoft Teams. We were still kind of using WebEx and kind of using Skype. And then all of a sudden, everybody was forced into this new platform. And that caused some, uncomfortable moments. And for some people, it could cause them a level of stress that they really don't need to have to deal with. So, Hayworth, fortunately, quickly got on the horn, and they sent out a bunch of Teams training and really were able to get everybody up to speed fairly quickly. Now, the task-specific tools and technology, that could be something very simple, your laptop, the software programs that you're given. All of those really do matter when it comes to having what you need to get your job done. The next category is the ambient qualities. So this includes noise, access to daylight and views, the air quality and temperature, and aesthetics. Now, I'm going to bring up a little bit on that air quality. And I expect, since there's a lot of you in the facilities realm on this call, that this might be something that is definitely in your bailiwick. So we asked people who were working at home if they went back to the workplace and nothing had changed from when they were sent home from COVID, how would they feel about these resources? Are they a threat, or are they a gain, or are you just feeling like, neither here nor there? And it actually came back that if the air quality of their building was coming back as a threat, people were really unsure about, how the virus spread, how to make areas clean and safe to be in. And so that unknown element of going back to the building was a big deal to them. And we heard this from our customers as well. We started to hear, like, they were actually shouting from the rooftops about their HVAC units. Like, you know, I worked in commercial A&D for several years, and I never really thought that was one of those really, you know, flashy things that you would want to run about and say, you know, we've got wonderful indoor air quality, unless you were going for LEED, you know, something like that. But so that was really interesting to see that all of a sudden these elements that usually weren't really in the public eye for your employees to know became really key to help ease their anxiety and help get them back into the building. So the next workplace resource categories are space variety, and this could include having the ability to choose where you want to work and the different spaces to support that. So if you need to do teamwork with your team, yes, a nice open area to collaborate, or a conference room to provide you with more insulation from noise, or maybe you just need a head down focus space. There's also those restorative type spaces. So can you get away during the day when you need those brain breaks? Because let's face it, we all need to reset, even when we're in the middle of our workday, if we have a chance. And then you also have those social and interaction spaces. And this is one of those that you know, can become key to help people experience that culture when they come back into the office, and also reconnect with their coworkers that they haven't seen in person for quite some time. And then the last physical workplace resource is about legibility. So what is the plan configuration like? Is it easy to read? That's really what it comes down to for legibility. It's like your doctor's handwriting script. Those are oftentimes illegible and you don't know what to do with it. Luckily, your pharmacists do. But can people walk into your space and understand the intended use of the space? Can they scan and see that, hey, there's an open conference room there, that's what I'm supposed to do in that meeting, or maybe there's an open collaborative space, so they know what they need to do. And you can improve on legibility in the plans by providing plan configuration, landmarks, visual access, architectural differentiation, and signage. So all of those elements come together to create that legible plan. Now I'm going to stop right there before I go on and just see if anybody has any questions, if this is something that you have been thinking of or has been brought to your attention before.
And unmute yourself if you want to ask a question.
And we can move on. And if you think of any, just put them in the chat and we can go through Q&A at the end. So part of our research is that we really wanted to do a couple of things. So we wanted to gather benchmark data, and we also wanted to see if there is indeed a correlation between chronic stress and your resources. So we did find that the value of perceived gains in each workplace resource category individually increases between 1% and 3% as people experience more frequent health-related symptoms. So basically what that means is that when people are experiencing more stress, the importance of their resources increases. So when you have people that are still working from home, or they're coming back into work, or they're hybrid, and they are experiencing the chronic stress that many people around the globe are, that what you afford them in the workplace as a resource to get their job done is going to have more importance to them. Along with that, we also found that the value of perceived gains in each workplace resource category increased between 5% and 18% as people's performance increases. So as their performance goes up, again, the value of those resources can increase as well. Now, what does this all mean? Well, which resources are most relevant to combat our stressors, build resilience, and contribute to performance? So the first thing we say is do no harm. So at the very least, The workplace should not threaten workers' individual resources necessary for work performance. So address the threats. If there's something that's going on that that perhaps it's something that's fairly simple to improve on. I mentioned before the indoor air quality. I did not know this, but Hayworth has a fairly state-of-the-art HVAC system. According to our facilities team, it's really next only to a system that you would find in a hospital. So let people know that, right? That's a pretty simple way to just help assuage people's fears as they're coming back in. So address that threat. And then after that, you can start building your resource gains. So the workplace should foster gains to workers' resources necessary for work performance. And I told you a little bit earlier about this conservation of resources theory that we based our research model on. And there's this really cool thing about it, and it's called a resource caravan. So once you gain resources, it is easier for you to continue to gain resources. So if your basic needs are met, you're feeling content, your stress level is down, then you can build on that much easier than if you are in this place of chronic stress and you feel threatened, like you're not supported and you don't have what you need, then it's almost like you get that fight or flight type of response, and you really want to protect the resources that you already have. So based on our survey, which we did survey about 317 people across the United States, and these were knowledge workers. So people that were working in front office 9 to 5 type of jobs. And I would say the average age was, it went from 18 to 72. So we definitely got a good range of people from the Gen Z first coming into the workplace all the way to the baby boomers. And it was about split 50-50 between men and women. So we asked them all these questions about the perception of their gains and their threats, depending on if they were hybrid, remote, or in person. And what we found is that the top 3 threats to address for on-site performance are ambient qualities, legibility, and culture. So 19% of any change in performance is directly related to these factors. So what that means is if people are walking into their office building and it's got great ambient qualities, there's access to daylight and views, there's clean air, there's thermal comfort, there's that good aesthetic. If the plan's easy to read and they can know what to do with the spaces, and if they feel supported by their culture, then you could see a 19% change in performance in the positive direction. But unfortunately, the opposite of that is also true. So if you walk in and the workplace isn't supportive in these manners, then you could also see a decrease in performance as well. So that was on-site performance. And then we found for off-site, the top 3 threats to address and build gains for our user control, ambient qualities, and access to coworkers. So 23% of any change in performance is directly related to these factors. So what does this look like visually? Well, for specific on-site design resources, again, the user control, those work point adjustments, the task chairs, the screening, I think I would give this type of workstation setup, maybe like a B, B+. It could be a little bit better if they had a high decibel table. The screening element, perhaps that works for the type of work that they're doing, and that interruptibility is okay for them. Ambient qualities, so they've got access to daylight, access to nature, thermal comfort, we're going to guess is pretty good here, air quality, and freedom from noise. So in that aspect, I would say the ambient qualities are definitely a gain in this workplace. And then for legibility, so there's some good navigational cues built in. For instance, this person is standing at this center work island. It's also between 2 clusters of workstations. So if I was a person walking by and I wasn't on this team, I could pick up on those cues that is their team space for them to use. However, if I go around the corner, I can find different spaces that would be supportive of people that aren't in their direct work team. And these types of elements can also help to navigate through the space. Even the colors that you use, these lighting fixtures, these are big acoustic pendants. These could act as ways to help people delineate different areas of the space and navigate through it. And then lastly, the culture. So this looks like it's pretty supportive. You know, they've got the personality of their organization shown, which is architecture is one element of that, and they can get support from the team in a situation like this. Now we have specific offsite design resources. So if I'm looking at this picture of this gentleman, I don't know so much about that user control. The work point adjustment could use some help here. He's got his monitors up on his books. So to me, that says, you know, perhaps he was sent home and his home workspace doesn't afford him the same ergonomic comfort as his workspace in the office would. So this would be something that he might start to feel a threat from. Now we're going to say that, you know, it looks like maybe he's in an enclosed office, so he's got his vertical screens, if you will, so he can control the noise levels and have private conversations. There's ways for him to have interaction, which access to and time with coworkers to bridge the distance, and that really is a result of those task-specific tools that are available to him in the collaborative platforms. And then lastly, his ambient quality. So it looks like he's pretty good at managing his noise. He's got access to daylight, access to nature, and thermal comfort. So another thing that I'll just add is that, you know, as we're looking towards the future, the very near future, although it seems to be getting pushed off a couple months here and there, is like, what does this all mean? Like you're having people in still working from home, maybe they are hybrid, maybe you want everybody to come back in. So if there, for instance, is something offsite that is actually a gain for your employees, perhaps you know, they like cutting down on the commute, or they appreciate the ambient qualities that they can have at home, then what are some of those things that can be implemented in the workspace to help like draw them back in? Almost like those amenity type elements, but not the amenity type elements that we thought of, you know, 10 years ago when Google was putting ping pong tables in their office. The type of elements that help people to keep that balance in their lives and also just be able to reduce that stress. The last thing I want to talk about is how this can have an effect on your culture of your organization. We actually asked people some questions surrounding their organizational culture, and we found that people in different cultures perceive resources and their effect on performance and stress differently. So the first one is our collaborate culture. So the collaborate culture, they want to do things that last. So they're all about that long-term internal development. For them, having access to AV conferencing technology and collaborative work was key for them, to the tune of 20%. And these are also shown in sequence of highest to lowest impact. So for this culture, that is so important. They have those tools that they can keep connecting with each other, whether they're in the office or dispersed, excuse me. They also really value the access to socializing spaces and access to restorative spaces, and then access to daylight. Those top 5 there equate to 15% or more impact on performance. So what does that mean? You know, when people are coming back to work, physical distancing is going to be harder for this culture type. So setting up new norms will be essential as they transition back into the physical workspace. The ability to not be physically adjacent to one another to gain support from them could feel odd or strange to this culture. I mean, they're definitely like the friendly hug handshake culture, and they're really committed to their community and their work. They may grieve that they no longer have the physical closeness to one another, even though they might mostly be back together in the workspace. But their unified behavior produces strong organizational image in the marketplace, and that idea of community can extend to their customers. And this can often help when partners see this, and they're partners in the business process. So together, they can actually cheer on new change that could take place in the workplace and build stronger relationships and networks as a result of COVID. So really focusing on that employee well-being, addressing the loss from the workplace change, and just thinking about those psychological impacts can help support this culture. As far as organizational culture, involve the people who will be affected by the change in planning and implementation of a new workplace, and allow people to share their opinions and emotions about the new changes that are taking place. And then as you go along, depending on the state and local requirements, maintain appropriate distances for conversations among occupants, but still provide opportunities to celebrate them together. The next culture type is compete. So they want to do new things or do things now, excuse me. So they're more about that short-term development, very fast-paced. So give them a goal and they will work as hard as they can to reach that goal. And then they want to just hit the ground running on the next one. So for them, the design resources and for performance and stress in their space mainly revolve around the legibility and the ease of interaction with their coworkers. So the ability to identify the intended activity for spaces, that was at 23% to them. So again, they really just want a space that's easy to read so that they can do their job and get on with it. So as this culture focused on the rational pursuit of success, they will be quick to learn what's best for them and the business and what can be left behind in the new workplace. So perhaps they were the quickest to adapt when everything started to change, a year and a half ago. So universal quick connect and adaptive technologies will be the most important for this culture type. And then dealing with the new workplace may provide a new obstacle for this culture to quickly drive through while they create renewed motivation to pursue new opportunities that could result in increased profitability. This culture will adapt the fastest to the new world of work as leaders focus all efforts on new and improved results-oriented work environment. And also returning to the old ways of working may not work for this culture because they will have been forced to go through this rapid change and realize that they really like things better the new way. So as far as employee well-being, provide those quick face-to-face or new virtual interactions while adhering to physical distancing standards. Schedule time throughout the day to be more active, especially when working from home. And then taking too long to adapt could actually be a hindrance to speed, which could cause frustration and may lead to underperforming teams. And again, allowing space between coworkers in these high density applications while maintaining the ability for that quick connection. The next culture is the control culture. So they want to do things right. They're all about that long-term incremental development. So putting processes in place, following the data, this is that culture. So for them, the top resources for performance are that choice of individual work point. And this equates to about 13%. And then it starts to drop off from there. Access to AV conferencing technology was about 9%, and then it dropped all the way down to 4%. And they also have some resources for stress mitigation. They really want those vertical screens and panels to block their views and display ideas and to have those confidential conversations, but they also see the value in having access to coworkers for coordinated efforts. So for COVID-19, having a remote work policy in place will be essential to foster that sense of security and performance for people and teams within this control organization. And that's where that policy as a resource conversation really comes back into play. So having those clear rules and guidelines can help them move seamlessly between their different work settings. And then consider also that people tend to overwork when remote to produce more results. This type of culture has more of that performance over presence mentality. And this could be a potential for employee burnout if management is not clear about expectations for what remote work looks like. So employee well-being, complying with new regulations and rules of workplace distancing, while adhering to professional standards can reduce work stress, making new internal processes routine and employing these new technologies on a large scale, and explaining in detail about how this should all work. And then having smaller and more frequent meetings can really help them. And the last culture type is the create. So they want to do new things. They are the innovators. They're forward-thinking, breakthrough ideas. And for them, the design resource that comes to the top is that access to collaboration space. And this is at a whopping 32%. So if this type of culture does not feel supported in this way, that can have a big impact on their performance. Behind that is the ability to easily see their coworkers, the navigational cues, so those legibility type pieces. And then we get into the user control elements. And all of these are quite weighty. They're about 18% or higher. And they also have some resources for stress mitigation as well, mainly about the ambient qualities and those access to coworkers. So in COVID-19, this culture could really be experiencing the disruption because it's trickier to innovate when we're all working virtually, but they could also pursue some breakthrough innovation with a wide array of experiments that could provide new workplaces and new opportunities. So this culture may accept the changes in the workplace as a new opportunity to explore human relationships, use of technologies, and how together they can really start to lead those breakthrough products and services. But for them, too many rules and protocols in the new workplace could start to stifle creativity that this culture pursues. So flexibility and adaptability should be the emphasis for this culture. And the ability to stay abreast of changes, remain imaginative, and then undertake original actions will help keep this culture innovative. So from a well-being perspective, offering new spaces that stimulate and inspire people to think creatively and provide that sense of well-being, finding ways to hold idea sharing events in this new work setting while speculating about emerging opportunities based on new ways of working, and then reestablishing a flexible and open workspace that empowers new product development in smaller groups. So that is what I have for you today. It was a lot of information pretty quickly, but just like to get see if there's any questions and get some thoughts and feedback. If there's a conversation that's taking place around building resilience, and if there's anything that's being done from change management considerations in your workplaces.
Anyone have any questions they want to ask out loud or put in the chat? I've got one to start with, Kristen.
Sure.
It's actually from me, but
okay.
As far as addressing threats, do you recommend addressing those potential threats before they are brought even to your attention? An example I was thinking during your discussion was notifying your team of the air quality in the workplace. But what if the air quality is not good, or it's not going to relieve stress? Would you still tell them without them asking, or would you wait? Or
oh geez, that's a tough one. I think if you had ways to help improve that, then that would definitely be worth sharing. I don't know, that gets into that gray area, right, of withholding information. Interestingly enough, and I don't mean to totally change the direction of the conversation, but you are a West Coast group. And I was speaking with a group from Northern California and Seattle. They were from two A&D firms. And they said that even even during the beginning of the pandemic, they considered their indoor air quality at their office to be a gain because of the wildfires that were happening. And in Seattle, they don't have air conditioning in a lot of instances. So they wanted to come back into the office so they could have that thermal control. So I think some of it can depend on the point of view of the people in the area as well.
Okay. Anyone else?
I have a question. So during the breakout session earlier, I was just asking the people who are in that chat room what their companies have been doing as people are returning to the office, and again, avoiding that phrase "return to work" because a lot
You've
of
been
us
working the whole time.
Working. Yeah, exactly. So it's more return to the workplace. Because my company is going through an exercise of trying to figure out what policies and procedures we're going to be establishing in the near future about returning to the office. And I had some really good examples of from someone from the county who was saying that, if someone is only coming in Tuesdays and Thursdays, then they get a desk that's assigned and they use it for those days. But now you have that desk that's free Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. So they're trying to coordinate with another employee who, would like to come in on those days as well. And that way they get, it's a 2-for-1 basically, right? Which I think is very fair. And then, so how do you address fairness, I guess, is my question, because that's something that has started to come up. We have a task force in my company and I'm part of it. And fairness is definitely a big topic of, and then there's a stigma as well of people who are working from home who are not perceived as being as productive, for example. And then I don't know if there's like too many questions. We're East Coast, West Coast. We have 2 offices here in San Diego and 1 in Pennsylvania. And the cultures of the coast are so different, in my opinion. It's always been that way in the 10 years I've been with my company. And I just feel like, I actually emailed HR after our last meeting that it almost seems as if we might need 2 different policies for people who are in the East Coast, who are largely staff members. There are no labs there. For example, I work for a biotech, and the 2 offices here in San Diego, one is manufacturing, one is R&D labs. And so the majority of our staff have not stopped going to the offices. So, there's, again, the fairness, having maybe different policies depending on the culture and the location and type of the nature of their jobs, things like that. Did you see anything like that in your research?
Not specifically. We did, in theory, we could get there and get that more quantitative, answer, because we did ask, and we did different industries. We did different, all over the United States. So in theory, we could track where they're from, even what generation they are. So there's a lot of different ways we can look at it. We just didn't look at all of those. I think that equity is definitely something that's come up since the beginning, because yes, there were people that still had to stay on site. So organizations have found ways around that. I know at Hayworth, we have more people in our manufacturing facility at headquarters than we do in our front office. So there's been different types of incentives to kind of help ease the pain between some inequities they perceive, which, rightfully so, between the front office and the plant. In regards to where people are working and who sets those policies, I don't think you're far off from saying, we have different cultures, we have different, different leadership, different management from California to Pennsylvania. So that could be what needs to take place in order to be successful. We've kind of got, I would say, a framework policy about remote work. And then there is some areas that are up to the discretion of the management. We'll see how long that lasts long term, because now we're like many other organizations, there's the whole new buzz term, the Great Resignation, which has been in many, many, many articles over the past couple months. People now they feel stagnant. Perhaps they have reached that burnout phase because the last year working from home has been tough. So they feel like they need a change. And if there's a company who's forcing people back into work, and then there's a company who's allowing hybrid or fully remote, that could be one of those drivers. So when we look at the resource conversation, that's when it starts to get down into the bottom line of the company. You want to retain your talent. And you also want them to be happy and as productive as possible. So investing in those workplace resources, whether it's at home or in the office, if they're at home and perhaps it's a task share stipend, or, we've got customers who log on to our virtual store and they use their discount that they have with Hayworth so they can get furniture at a reduced rate. So there's different things that can be done in that home type of situation or hybrid situation as well. I don't know if that answered all your questions. Hopefully we got
No,
to some
no,
of
for
them.
sure. We just it's nice sometimes to just see like, you know, some of the things that we've implemented to address equity as validated. Like, you know, for the people who did have to come in and never stop coming to the office, we've been feeding them lunch every single day for 1.5 years now, basically.
Wow.
In the beginning, we were giving them gas cards, things like that. So we have been trying to incentivize those who didn't have a choice but to come into the office. Well, you know, maybe a third of the company was able to work from home, which obviously has its drawbacks as well. I know for myself, I do not like working from home at all, you know, but because of the childcare situation, the schools being closed, you know, I didn't have a choice but to work from home, and that was hell. parenting
I've got 4
like
kids, I
yeah.
understand.
So, but it would be nice to hear from other attendees about, you know, if their companies have gone through policies like, you know, what I've been asking about and their experiences. So I know the Mr. Bro, I forgot his first name. He was the one who gave the example. So that was really great. But if there's anyone else who would like to share, we'd appreciate it. Patrick Bro.
Yeah, I'd love to hear as well. And that's one of the most insightful parts of being able to talk to customers about this is that they do share. So a lot of what I've learned over the past 9 months of presenting this has been sometimes refuted by customers, which is fine too, and sometimes has been validated. So.
Hi, everyone. This is Sandra with Viasat. I can share a couple of examples that we've been doing if you're interested. Like you said, it's been a whirlwind. I actually am on the remote work, I guess you could say, steering committee for Viasat. And we actually have put in a remote work policy, and we are not doing anything hybrid at this point. So Glenda, you mentioned, at least not in the Carlsbad office, you mentioned desk sharing and things like that. And we are definitely looking into that. We actually are doing a pilot program in our facilities department of the desk sharing. And, you know, really what it comes down to, it's between the manager and the employee. If the manager decides that this employee can work remote 5 days, great. We don't question it. They sign an agreement. I mean, it is a 5-page agreement. And what we do is we offer them a sit-stand desk at home, an ergonomic chair, a keyboard, a mouse, all of the headset, everything you can monitor arms, monitor everything that you can think of. So we try, and it's about $1,000 an employee that we spend just to make sure they have the same desk setup that they do at the office. Let's see what else. We did give a stipend before, like when it all started, you know, like maybe in the summer of 2020, the company gave everyone $500, and not just I mean, it was for everyone, not just for the people who are continuing to come to work. But I can say, you know, there's only about 30% of our population that are on the campus. So it's there. We are mostly working from home. When we do return to the office, we're very fortunate because most of our buildings are outfitted with private offices. So if you work at Viasat, most likely you have a private office. We have lots of collab spaces, lots of amenity spaces that actually I'm in charge of. So lots of games, outdoors, indoors, all of that cultural stuff. You know, when we thought we were returning to the office, we ordered new games. We ordered, you know, we just wanted to make sure everything was in place and nobody had any, you know, reason not to come to the office. And then the Delta variant happened, so we couldn't return. So anyways, that's kind of what we're doing at Viasat. And it's just, it changes so often. we're just rolling with the punches.
Yeah, that's what you have to do. I know my husband was supposed to go back after Labor Day, and now it's after Christmas. So I appreciate having him around for, childcare help.
That's really great insight, Sandra. Really appreciate it. And I'm probably going to have to rewatch this just to take the notes because I can't take them right now.
Well, and we have done quite a campaign around this topic. So hayworth.com, under, I think it's resources, there's our full white paper, or we have an ebook. And then in a couple of weeks, actually the 28th, I'll be doing a sit down with my coworker, Erin Hayworth, who is also part of the research. And she's going to, we're going to just share more and get a little into some of the different aspects of it. So welcome to register for that as well, if you would kind of like a refresh.
Kristen, can you send that to Sue-Ann and Denise?
Absolutely. Yep, I can do that.
Thank you.
I'll send the link right now.
Okay, do we have any other questions for Kristen? If not, then I want to thank her very much for sharing her knowledge with us. And this is quite interesting, the different types of cultures, I guess you can call it, different types of people. We learned that within the CFM and the FMP, that in human factors, that there are different types of people and they have different motivations and the different way that they deal with things. And that's what makes a powerful team, is if you know how to put all that together. So thank you for going over all of that. Thank you for
You're
being
welcome.
with us today. So if anyone has further questions or wants to get in contact with her, you could let Denise Temez know and we'll get you in contact with them. She has a great team that loves to contact speakers and loves to talk to them and bring us the best. So thank you all very much. I want you to know that there is a breakout session after this. If you need to network or if you would love to network, you have that opportunity. That'll be on till about 1:30, when they will kick you out of the rooms and say, I'm sorry, we'd love to have you around, but you should really go back to work now. So anyway, thank you all for joining us. We will see you in November. Look for your emails. We got some things to be announced. Our holiday wreath event, for those who'd like to participate in that, and a wonderful roundtable at the end of the month for facility condition assessment, how to do those. So those are great opportunities to learn something new. So thank you all. And if you want to stick around, we'll put you in a breakout session. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.